Britain's Coastline Cops patrol 10,500 miles of our shoreline, from stunning beaches to isolated cliffs and packed seaside resorts. From Scotland to West Cumbria, from East Anglia to the Solent on the south coast. With 40 million recession-hit Britons staying at home this year, keeping the peace on the coast has never been tougher. A special job for a special kind of cop. Tonight, looking for drugs on Loch Lomond.
Put your hands out your pockets for me.
He's put it in his mouth to eat it. I've told him to spit it out.
Chucking out time on the Isle of Mull. Zero tolerance in Cumbria.
Don't go round calling coppers.
And on the Yorkshire coast, troublemaking holidaymakers get what they ask for in Scarborough. The west coast of Scotland is one of the most spectacular coastlines in the UK. Dotted with hundreds of islands, remote beaches, rocky inlets, and tiny harbours. And they don't come much smaller than Tobermory on the Isle of Mull. 900 people live here. It used to be an isolated fishing village before the Victorians discovered it and put it on Mull's tourist trail. Looking after the locals and the few visitors who come here are just 5 police officers, one of the smallest forces in Britain. Sergeant Angela MacDonald is in charge. She used to be a detective in turbulent Glasgow before transferring to Mull a year ago to become a coastline cop.
Policing here is quite unique in that it's a beautiful place to live and work. It consists of a strong community where people are very pro-police. You feel your work is appreciated. You can really make a difference here, which is very difficult when you're working in the city centre, racing from call to call, and you don't have the time or the luxury that we have here.
Sergeant MacDonald's luxurious time is under threat. This weekend is the West Highland Sailing Regatta. 200 boats of all shapes and sizes are heading towards the Isle of Mull from the mainland. And they're all stopping off in Tobermory, 1,000 sailors in search of food and drink. Sergeant MacDonald and her fellow cops are going to be overwhelmed, and she needs all the help she can get. Her backup is an elite marine policing unit from Strathclyde Police. It has 7 specialist officers and 2 high-speed rapid response boats. In charge is Sergeant Ian Oliphant, a coastline cop who's never strayed too far from water.
I've sailed boats for most of my life. Before I was in the police initially when I left school, I trained and qualified as a marine engineer. So these are skills which can be brought into the job that I do now. There's approximately 5,000 square miles of water within the force area. It's a larger coastline than France, just over 1,700 miles. There's 164 identified ports. It is a vast area to cover.
South of the Scottish border, in North Yorkshire, lies one of the busiest stretches of the UK coastline. It's dominated by England's oldest seaside resort, Scarborough. Scarborough used to be the ultimate summer destination for millions of Britons, but the Costa del Sol and cheap flights put paid to all that. But this year, the credit crunch and some oldie-worldy charm have brought back the holidaymakers. Good news for local businesses, tough times for the town's thin blue line. Summer days are usually peaceful, but summer evenings not always so. Scarborough is a small town with a big nightlife. PC John Beaumont is walking the line tonight. He joined the local force 6 years ago. Although he's never policed a big city, he's well aware of the difference.
Some of the cities obviously have bigger problems than we do. Sometimes they have the more staff to cope and specialist teams, but we tend to find that, you know, it is a nice area to work in evening. As you'll see, most of the people you can speak to quite freely, and they will give you the time of day, whereas bigger places, they tend to not recognise you and you're just a number to them.
Back at the police station, Coastline Cop PC Dave Kirk is getting ready for duty. He's Yorkshire born and bred and knows all about the trouble you face in these parts.
Coastal policing, you'll get your hen parties, it'll be public order side of things, it will be drunken side of things, anything. Burglaries in progress, thefts in progress, robberies, it could be anything.
PC Kirk joined the North Yorkshire Police as a teenager, and there's nowhere else he'd rather be.
It's the coast, it's Scarborough, you can see the sunset setting over the sea and sunrise coming up on the sea. It's really picturesque. We're more here, yeah, we're grown, but you know, the scenery and everything makes up for it, I suppose.
Picturesque, maybe. But crime happens no matter what the scenery.
It would appear that there's a burglary in progress coming in at Foot, which is one of the villages off Outfiley. We're going to make for it because we're quite close, probably closer than the other officers.
This time it's burglars who are causing trouble on a local farm.
Yes, it's all. He's there.
Hello, mate. We've only got very sketchy information about what's happened, mate. So...
Well, I was in bed and I heard wagon start.
Right.
Come down, the hot wired it.
You've got wired wagon?
And I'll just take a look at it.
And I heard the lorry engine running, revving, trying to move it, but the air brakes were still on, so they couldn't move it, which gave us a little bit of time to get down here. But they soon sort of left the scene. They don't mess about, do they?
And in this part of Yorkshire, gangs of horse rustlers are known to operate.
Basically what I'm doing is I'm looking for any footwear marks that may be down here. And what they've done is if you come and have a look at the barrel, they've pulled this bit off here. I don't want to touch it because it's going to be preserved for our scenes of crime, or CSI now, to try and do the vehicle lock. Be nice to catch them, wouldn't it? Night way control, have we got a dog that can come to this scene?
The dog is Jess, a 2-year-old German Shepherd.
That's the negative.
A police helicopter is also on the case.
I'm just walking back towards... The dogman's communicating with the helicopter now to try and establish where the track ended, so they can search the area from there.
It was in the main yard, actually.
They've only just legged it.
Meanwhile, in town, the third member of Scarborough's Coastline night shift is now on patrol. PC Julie Johnson is a local lass who used to be a police admin worker until she decided to go the whole way.
I just thought, I don't want 9 to 5. I'm a sort of bubbly sort of person as well. And it appealed to me sort of going out and actually integrating with the members of the public. And it's one of them jobs as well. You come to work one day expecting, you know, a fairly level day, and then all of a sudden things just bang. You've got a murder or you've got a stabbing.
About 15 minutes ago, we had a call from a female to say that her ex-partner has left a note, a suicide note. We've just had another call to say that there's a male on one of our bridges just close to the foreshore, we call it Spar Bridge, actually stood on the bridge threatening to throw himself off. And we believe it's the same male. So the partner, or the ex-partner as such, we're hoping to bring her up. I'm just running up here because I'm going to stop these pedestrians from walking under the bridge, just in case. Excuse me. Excuse me. The problem is that we've got a situation and we can't allow pedestrians up that way.
Well, I can do step. Will I jump in my car?
Yeah.
Giving a lift in a patrol car is part of the Coastline Cops' added value.
You know, we're not a big city. Problem is it's been busy as well because I think Ken Dodd's been on at the Futurist. So we do spend a bit more time looking after the more vulnerable. It's there, I think. We like to think, especially in Scarborough, that we do care for the community as well as police the community.
He's on the wrong side of the bridge.
He's on the wrong side of the bridge, which means he's hanging off the edge, sort of thing.
Yeah, we've seen him.
I think he's actually at the end of where that tree is. He's literally just towards the edge. He's been on the wrong side of the bridge for about 20-25 minutes. He has literally climbed over the railings. It's stood facing inwards, but he's on the outsides, obviously holding onto the railings. If he lets go, basically he goes backwards, and you can see it's a steep drop. I know from colleagues where they've said, they've been to these sort of jobs before, and the impact and the noise it makes when things happen, and it's quite nerve-wracking to think that. Let's just hope he gets back over again, and things work out well.
PC Johnson will have to keep moving on as the drama at the bridge continues.
He was over the railings here with the drop down into the gardens below there.
PC Kirk isn't giving up on the horsebox thieves.
It's behind where the dog section stood.
And the Cumbrian Food Festival serves up celebrity chefs and, for the Coastline Cops, an unusual ingredient.
How much is PlayStation? I will stop down my arms.
Mind your head.
In Scarborough, on the Yorkshire coast, PC Julie Johnson is still trying to keep people away from the bridge where a man is on the edge. She's waiting for trained negotiators, but there's a potential problem. Ken Dodd's in town, and the showgoers will soon be coming out of the theatre. It's just down the road.
Yep, just some information. Ken Dodd's at Futurist is due to finish in half an hour with the whole of the Futurist turning out.
Oh, Jesus, what are we going to do with them then? Ties up resources. You've got me watching pedestrians here. You've got your paramedics and ambulance down here. It's also Saturday night, early hours, Sunday morning, bank holiday Sunday, where you've got stuff in town. Oh God, Ken Dodd's just come out, it's early. Ken Dodd's just coming out, there's going to be hundreds of people here in a minute. You're going to need another unit up there because we need to be here.
I'm still going to go down.
I'm afraid the roads is all closed off. There's a situation up there, we can't allow you up there. We've closed the road off, I'm afraid. Excuse me, I'm afraid it's all closed. What you're going to have to do is there's some steps. If you go outside with Olympia, it'll take you up to the Grand Hotel. You'll have to go that way, you see, to go get your vehicle, I'm afraid.
2 miles inland, PC Kirk is also under pressure. He's still after the thieves who tried to hotwire a horsebox. He's not having much luck.
928, we're coming to you two.
The helicopter's thermal imaging camera has picked up a heat trace.
The bushes up there, isn't it?
Behind where the dog section stood.
Can't get through, John.
If you continued walking in a straight line the way you're going, it's in front of you in the bushes. Straight to your right. The bushes that's between you and your colleague that's on the other side, yeah? Somewhere in there, you're stood on it now with the guy with the torch. Officer with the torch is just to your right. 5-5, is it anything?
We can't see at the moment. We're just having a butcher's.
Yeah, you're prodding around whatever it is. There's something very warm under there, but you're literally on top of it.
It's a farm drain.
It's probably the pipe that's giving off the heat. Like I say, it was in the bushes.
I don't know if you heard that, but it looks like there's a water pipe or some form of storm drain.
We thought we'd had him then.
We've lost the track.
732 from Indy 5.
Basically here.
It's a negative surge, I'm afraid.
So,
we're going to have to stand down for some fuel.
Okay, the inspector's called it off, so it's been an hour and a half anyway we've been out here. So,
Yes.
We'll catch them up because they've got some lights.
604 to 3052. Go ahead.
In Scarborough town, there's been a development, a good one. The man who's been threatening to jump off the bridge has changed his mind.
I think he's eventually agreed and he's actually climbed back over with assistance. He didn't want to get into the fire lift and come down that way. He's actually gone over that side.
The coastline cop who talked the man down is Sergeant Trish Hope.
It started here. He was over the railings here with the drop down into the gardens below there. I engaged the gentleman in conversation. I was literally stood here. I was within arm's reach of him. He was quite happy to have close contact with me. But it was just, again, a question of just trying to persuade him to agree to come back over. The senior fire officer on the scene established a rapport with him as well, and between the two of us we actually managed to get him to walk along the bridge. It's just here, and he was walked along with the cradle behind him, and I waited here, and then I got hold of him here and he came over here.
I think it's the road that comes down to the...
I am so glad I was actually at the bottom of the bridge. I think if I'd have had to stand up there and speak to him, I think I'd have probably passed out, so come on, let's go back in town.
On the Isle of Mull, the annual sailing regatta is gathering pace. The 200 boats are well on their way to Tobermory, and Sergeant MacDonald and her 4 other coastline cops are preparing for the worst. 1,000 thirsty sailors heading for the tiny port's 4 pubs. The specialist marine unit which will be helping her when the boats finally arrive are first tackling another mission.
Graham, the last high water was 1455.
Looking for drugs on the banks of Loch Lomond.
So it'll just be starting to drop. Been tasked by the local division to assist them around Loch Lomond and the islands. There's a number of acts of disorder, sometimes concentrated around campsites. There's no restriction on camping on Loch Lomond, so you can camp on any of the islands and the shorelines.
Much of Loch Lomond is inaccessible by road, out of the reach of normal police. That's where Sergeant Oliphant's Coastline Cops come in. They can reach the parts that others can't. And for this, they have a new recruit, a rookie.
This is Gus. He's a 2-year-old English Springer Spaniel. He's just completed an 8-week training course to become a drugs detection dog, along with firearms detection and also money detection. He's been operational now for about a month, I would say now, and he's already had some success recovering in the region of about £3,000 to £4,000 worth of drugs.
Rookie Gus faces an even sterner test today. This is his first time on water. The drugs problem has arisen because a recent change in the law in Scotland gives everyone the right to roam anywhere they like, including on private land. Strathclyde police have had complaints that campers are abusing the new ruling by holding drink and drugs parties in the most remote places on the loch.
Thanks, Paul.
It's Gus's job to find out if they're right.
All right, guys. How we doing? There's no intelligence or anything to suggest that there would be any drugs here as such, but we've explained what we're doing, the reasons why we're doing it, which is the number of complaints about disorder, misuse of both drink and drugs on the various campsites around the loch. Do you have any sharp on you at all? No. Keep your hands out of your pockets for me.
Well, we're just going to show I have this pipe, I'm just going to draw something.
Something has been smoked in it. I certainly wouldn't think it's just tobacco. Turn round for me.
As we approached the campsite, one of the males was smoking what appeared to be a joint. And seeing us, he's put it behind his back and then he's put it in his mouth to eat it. I've told him to spit it out, which he has done, but he'd been done with obstruction. He's admitted that it's cannabis. But because of that, we have done a cert where the dog, Gus, has made an indication in the tent. The other chap has admitted that it's his and under caution has told us it's marijuana.
It's going to be a long day. There's more than one campsite on the loch.
Can we done doing that for me, please? If I do detect some interest, it might heighten his behaviour. He'll indicate by sitting down at the item, pointing to it towards his nose, indicating it that way, and wagging his tail. What's that there in the wee bag?
Oh, tobacco?
No, next to the tobacco, the big lump, the brown stuff. You see there?
Possessing such a small quantity of drugs is not a serious offence, but Sergeant Oliphant is a coastline cop who does things by the book. The camper gets a caution, but no criminal proceedings are taken.
Anything you want to say in reply to the charge?
No.
200 miles south of Loch Lomond lies a far less isolated shoreline. The Cumbrian coast was once dominated by a network of large coal mines and thriving ports, bustling with ships from all over the world, trading timber, tobacco and rum. The most dynamic port of all was Whitehaven. This was once the 6th largest port in England, but when the mines closed and shipbuilding moved away, Whitehaven was hit hard. It had to look elsewhere for a lifeline, and found it in food. Whitehaven is a small town with a population of around 25,000, yet it has managed to create the biggest food festival in Britain. Over the next few hours, Whitehaven's Coastline Cops are expecting 100,000 people to sample its delights and have a drink or two. PC Mick Taylor is a food festival veteran.
Well, policing an event like this is actually a family event, and we try to police it not as hard as what you would police something which was totally alcohol related. This event down here, albeit a food festival, is totally no alcohol. So that actually what I think keeps the peace most of the time and actually keeps most people enjoying the atmosphere. The major problems we'll have on here are generally with youth disorder around the fairground areas and the potential of some young people trying to get a couple of drinks onto the harbour front.
Now, can I ask you from this area, obviously?
With celebrity chefs all over the harbour, it's a chance for Cumbria's finest to sample something other than the police canteen grub.
Very nice. Juicy, texture, everywhere.
And for PC Mick Taylor, it's a chance to fulfil a most important mission.
Ainsley.
Yeah.
PC Mick Taylor, I'm Town Centre Officer for Whitehaven. I've got a great favour to ask you.
Okay.
Come on, Jeannie, quick.
On that day, Gene.
Behave yourself, Jean. We know what you like. Thanks very much. That's it, task complete. You couldn't wish for a better place to live. By the Fells, brilliant harbour. What more do you want, really?
While it's food heaven at the stalls, it's booze hell outside the pubs.
Yeah, 02, we're on the way now.
PC Phil Carruthers has been asked to deal with some drunken troublemakers.
Yeah, we just had a call in from officers down on the harbour now. They've got one under arrest for D&D, drunk and disorderly. So they're requesting the ban. Whoever it is obviously being violent because I think they've been parved as well.
Parva is a chemical spray the Coastline Cops use to subdue those who violently resist arrest. It causes intense irritation of the eyes and takes time to wear off.
Alright, well just let's water my eyes unless I will lose the ploppages.
The lads have been searched and a plastic bag containing exotic plant leaves has been found.
Oh, what's this, the PlayStation? I will stop out my arms.
Mind your head.
Let me in then.
Jump in. Mind your head, mind your head.
So now.
Obviously it's been identified probably by the people standing around, the shop owners, things like that. Because of what they've done, their conduct, they're not able to be left on the streets. So simple as that, really.
Keep your eyes closed, it's only temporary.
The leaves in the plastic bag are actually herbs, bought at the food festival, but not the sort of ingredient you find in an Ainsley Harriott recipe.
Obviously with the stalls and stuff like that that are in at the minute, there's a lot of continental stuff that's in. And this is an aphrodisiac. So it's a powerful blend of sexually stimulating herbs, including the bark of an African tree. Why he's got it, I don't know. But it is legal throughout Europe and the USA, according to this. So who knows?
Right, we're going to go in.
Right, I'll come down for the
Right,
pastry.
can you see?
Out of one eye, yeah.
This man's day out at the food festival is over. He and his mate are charged with being drunk and disorderly. The herbs, though, are nothing but harmless leaves. On the menu, a few hours in the cells, with one unhappy drinking companion who's still asking for trouble.
No, I'm going to shout back to him, just let him shout to himself.
I can't even like the same there.
Right, all your property's been listed on there. Just
There,
give me a
look.
signature to say that's correct.
No, down here. All right, you can walk on your own, can't you? Yep, spot on. Ignore him, he's not your problem. All right, all right.
But there are many more problems heading the way of the Coastline Cops. A former military policeman has his own way of dealing with food festival troublemakers.
You don't go round calling coppers puffs.
PC's Kirk and Johnson take on all comers in Scarborough.
Now go away!
And in Tobermory, the elite Marine unit finds itself dealing with sailors,
What I would suggest, your night is now over.
some of whom are very much worse for wear. On the Cumbrian coast at Whitehaven, the annual food festival is in full swing. 100,000 visitors are now crammed into the town and its pubs.
And shields in the centre.
Sergeant Jim Lloyd is a former military policeman who knows how quickly things can change when alcohol's involved. He and his team are prepared for anything.
If we do have to use it, it's all gone horribly pear-shaped. Good bunch of troops to work with in the van, so we have a laugh, look after each other. That's what it's all about, isn't it? So, I mean, the whole purpose of this van and all these bobbies that are in the van really is going to be to deal with public order, which will be as a result of drink. So, in effect, you're tying up 7 officers to deal with people who can't handle their alcohol. But it's got to be done, hasn't it? So we'll just crack on and do it. Dave's seen something, a couple of lads pushing each other. I don't know what it is. We'll go and have a word and make sure we nip it in the bud before anything else happens. Get yourself up, fella, you're in the road.
Cheers, man.
Up you come. Get yourself on the pavement. You're falling about in the road, you're drunk. So what we're going to do is, I think we're going to have you out the town for the rest of the evening. Okay. Right, you have a listen to what this fella's going to say to you.
Can I ask you some questions? What's your name, mate?
On the phone in the middle of the road. Oh, we need someone to come herring round the corner, and you've got one flat pedestrian and a fatal road traffic investigation, which is a waste of everybody's time when it can be averted. Okay, fellas, get yourself away. Jesus, let's not see you again. Where does he live at?
This lad is now banned for the day from the town centre. He's been given a Coastline Cop exclusion order.
Sorry guys, don't really have a good night life.
Obviously, just a couple of drunken half-wits, so we'll leave them to it.
In Tobermory on the Isle of Mull, there aren't any drunken half-wits, but there are 1,000 sailors in town, celebrating the end of the West Highland Regatta. And Sergeant MacDonald and her 4 other Coastline Cops are going to be overwhelmed. But help is at hand. Sergeant MacDonald's backup, the police marine unit from the mainland, has arrived. Their patrol boat can do 60 miles an hour, fully loaded. But tonight it will be less about speed.
It's their choice, but they might not be too happy. Unfortunately, my 5.
And more about caring for others.
Obviously, the problems will arise, not want to state the obvious, but drink mixed with people going in dinghies back out to the boats is going to be our main concern.
In North Yorkshire, the Coastline Cops are also concerned about what will happen when their summer visitors have had enough to drink. PC Dave Kirk will be on the front line tonight.
We're now in the locker room, I'm just getting ready to go out, and this is my tackleberry belt. What's got all your toys on? That's powder spray, that's like pepper spray, like CS spray. I've got my bracelets, my handcuffs. Got a spit hood. If people are spitting at you, you can put this over them. Just goes over the head. I always like to carry one because I don't like to be spat on, you know, it's vile, it's filthy. I don't mind being punched, but you know, getting spat on is completely something else, isn't it? I've just got a pouch full of rubber gloves there, obviously dealing with the, you know, covered in puke people on a Friday, Saturday night. Got my old friction lock baton. But I've never hit anyone with it. I'm a fond user of the gas. If you're putting this around someone's legs or other parts of their anatomy, then they're going to have permanent damage, aren't they, really? If you're not to this point, then you've lost, haven't you? The plan is the town centre, to see what we can see. We're going to have a drive round first, and then I think we're going to get out and have a wander around pubs and clubs with Julie being the licensing officer.
Julie, the licensing officer, is PC Julie Johnson, and she's already out on patrol, keeping an eye on the pubs and clubs.
As you can probably see now, we're sort of coming up to the crowd, so...
PC Johnson has a tough job. Scarborough has around 70 pubs and 3 nightclubs.
More hen-dos, more hens about. Stags.
The summer is their best chance to make a profit.
I love you, Becky!
So far, so good, joyful, you know. They don't seem too drunk, just all in good spirits, really, which is what we want.
I understand. This guy just said, I'm not fucking down.
Round the corner, others are trying to knock each other down. It's PC Kirk's job to stop them.
Take him away. It's not worth it. Have a good night, lads. Have a good night, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. If I'm walking around with an attitude, people might have an attitude with me. But you treat people as you find, don't you? And if they're all right with you, you're all right with them.
Why don't you do something about it, though?
Well, he's doing something about it. Now, go away!
Coastline policing is usually done with a light touch, but tonight there are too many people cutting up rough.
Just, I'll tell you what, just go away. Grow up and at your age. It can be intimidating, but I think it's a matter of probably not backing down, showing them that you're not really intimidated and standing your ground with them, really. Most people here are not out to sort of assault police, they're here for a good time.
Trouble like this may be small town stuff, but PC Johnson doesn't like what she's hearing.
I don't know, you just get this feeling that, you know, things are starting to brew up and, you know, things are starting to sort of come to the boil at the end, and the eventuality is that you end up with fights, people being locked up.
In Whitehaven on the Cumbrian coast, the brew is also coming to the boil at the food festival. And Sergeant Lloyd realises he will need every ounce of his experience as a coastline cop.
Once the fireworks display's finished, you'll probably find there'll be a mass exodus off the harbour side heading up to the pubs. So you'll get all the last sort of hangers-on of families and whatever who've come down to see the day's events. They'll start leaving, and everybody else will filter back out towards the pubs. There'll be flashpoints at the taxi ranks, fast food establishments.
In my tummy! In my bloody tummy!
And drunken fools like that.
Sergeant Lloyd might have left the army 7 years ago, but the discipline he gained is still there. He's not a man to be messed with.
Mate, I'm joking. I'm only joking.
You're locked up, fella.
Please leave me. We're going now.
You back away now.
What's that for?
Move away.
No, where are you coming,
Move away. Do you want to come in as well? Move away.
Where are you coming, mate?
Turn around. Move away. Move.
Go on past to get a taxi.
I'm not going to ask you again. Move away. You keep moving. Let me come, fella.
Good lad, we're going to search you.
Just round the back of the van. We'll just do it around the back of the van.
That one you shouldn't have.
You don't go round calling coppers puffs. Do you understand?
I apologise.
You're locked up.
Mate, I was
Section 5 of the Public Order Act. You don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you fail to mention now. Move away. Something which you later rely on in court. Back off, fella. In you go.
Here we go, lad.
Watch your head. Section 5 Public Order.
Section 5.
Quote, all police puffs. What we were discussing earlier about how drunks will come up and speak to you and be quite friendly, and then it'll just turn in a second. And that one there, chatting away, and then decide to get quite abusive, making homophobic remarks. Can't have that, so he's been locked up. But out the way. But as you see, a couple of his mates decided they want to intervene, and you really need to get a grip of the crowd very quickly and let them know who's in charge. If we don't become quite dominant with them and move them out of the way, that could quite easily have turned, and they would have tried it on with us.
On the Isle of Mull, it's drams and sea shanties, rather than homophobic remarks, that are the order of the night. The sailors crammed into the pubs in Tobermory are in the mood to celebrate, or at least most of them are. Sergeant Oliphant has found the one mariner who, having reached his limit, started asking for trouble.
Let me explain to you this very simply. You've been removed from the premises. Doesn't matter what it's for, they can refuse anybody, okay? So what I would suggest, your night is now over, all right? And you make your way back to whatever your arrangements are to get back onto your boat and have a night's sleep. And that will be the end of it, okay? All right? What I don't want to find is you hanging about here.
Sergeant Oliphant knows that he and his Marine unit will have to hang about for a while longer. It'll soon be chucking out time.
It's 1:45. The two main public houses that are left open are going to be stopping the bands about 1 o'clock and looking to close up for the evening.
Got to watch because people have had maybe a skinful of a drink, and they've put quite a lot of people on the wee dinghies that go back and forth. Maybe overloading a few of the boats. They're not wearing any life jackets, and so the danger is when they're heading back, if somebody falls in, and they've not got any lights on, so just making sure everybody gets back safely.
Getting everyone back safely is easier said than done, especially when they're having trouble building up a head of steam.
He's forgot to turn the actual fuel on, and he's had the choke out, so possibly flooded the engine. So we decided to give him a tow to the boat to make sure they got on there safely.
It's been very good humoured and generally well received all evening.
On the North Yorkshire coast, it's also pub chucking out time. And for many of these holidaymakers, that means a trip to the nightclub. And licensing officer Johnson's getting that feeling again.
My gut feeling earlier was it was going to be busier than last night, which yeah, it will be because it's Saturday. But there are a lot more sort of parties and people dressed up like I thought there would be as well. So it's quieting down at the top end of town now because that's where everyone starts drinking. So they've obviously moved off down there and they're heading round. So the potential really is at the far end of town now. But give it another hour or so, I would imagine, we will start seeing things happening. So we'll see.
For PC Johnson, things will be happening sooner than she thought, as Scarborough's summer nights finally boil over.
Come on and get back! Come on, get back!
In Scarborough on the North Yorkshire coast, Saturday night is in full swing. PC's Kirk and Johnson are facing a wave of increasing disorder.
On the radio, someone's getting beaten up apparently at the bottom of the green lane. It's just towards where we've just come from.
They don't have time to help with the fight. They've been asked to go to a row outside one of Scarborough's 3 nightclubs.
Don't swear.
A bouncer has refused entry to a man and his son.
We'll have a chat. What's wrong? Don't swear.
The man in the yellow shirt is clearly spoiling for a fight, and the rest of the crowd is getting worked up as well. The men in the red jackets are Scarborough Council night marshals, charged with helping police keep the peace.
It's filming us.
PC Kirk has now become isolated, and that's a dangerous position for any coastline cop to be in. Punches have been thrown and PC Kirk's helmet is gone. The man in the yellow shirt is in the thick of it.
Get away.
PC Kirk's first line of defence is his parva spray, which usually stops even the most determined opponent. This man just laughs it off.
Do it, you're under arrest.
Your best mate's down. Behave! Behave, lad! I mean, you know, behave! Get off it now!
The cops use their parva spray again, and they're now getting it in the face too.
Get away. Get away.
PC Kirk's tormentor will not back down either. And the asp, which Kirk believes should only ever be used as a last resort, is out.
He's coming in. He's coming in.
It's all right, you stopped it, he was built it.
Just asking
you to take it.
Just put your hands behind your back.
Even with 5 cops on him, the man will not go quietly. And others fancy a go at PC Kirk too. With at least 8 officers and marshals trying to subdue the man, the parva spray is used for a 3rd time.
Back off! Back off!
And PC Kirk knows there's a danger more of the crowd could join in.
You're killed. Hey, are you watching this?
Listen to me now.
No.
Get yourself up and relax.
Let's have him on deck.
At last, the officers can get to the man's hands to cuff him.
Yeah, please.
But he's so big, the PC Kirk's normal pair aren't enough.
I need another cuff. It's too big. Back them off.
Just stay calm, mate, all right?
Right, we're going to stand you up, and you're going to be all right, all right? Okay. All right? Right, good lad.
On your side.
Right, we're going to put you to your feet, all right? Right.
What's it called? No!
Ours, where's ours? Back there. Walk with me down here.
Davy gas is hanging down.
I know, I can't do nothing else. It's over now. All right, it's over. It's over.
All right.
PC Kirk's prisoner is now going to face a public order charge.
Get camera on here. Scarborough Cops.
The man is not impressed with the outcome of his brush with the Coastline Cops.
Good lad. Sit in there.
Scarborough Cops.
Stay calm, mate, all right?
It's become a huge fight, basically, between us and them.
Well, the adrenaline is definitely pumping. The lad in the back of the van's local lad. You get one down. We do it for officer safety, numbers. It doesn't mean say we're hurting them more. People get involved. I mean, I don't know if you must have seen it.
Julie, I'm going back station.
All right, yeah, fine. People joining in. It's a matter of keeping it calm now. I've just spoken to Boleyn store staff, explained the atmospheres. Did they have a gut feeling earlier? It was brewing. Well, it brewed and it boiled over. So Saturday night.
This summer Saturday night might have ended in tears in Scarborough, but in Whitehaven on the Cumbrian coast, peace and quiet reigns, as it does north of the border, in Tobermory, where the sailors are safe in their yachts. And for Scarborough's licensing officer, PC Johnson, it's been a night to remember, but not one which dims her enthusiasm for being a coastline cop.
4 o'clock in the morning, you're sort of driving around the bay or whatever, just general policing, and the sun's coming up. You know, it's a nice sight, it's nice. The seagulls I don't like, but, you know, rest of it, yeah, the sea's nice, as say.
Next week on Coastline Cops, a VIP visit to an East Coast marina. On the lookout for terrorists in the Solent.
I mean, look at the targets there. They're massive, high-profile targets.
And at a Suffolk Air Festival, it's all the fun of the fair on the beach. But on the seafront, it's just not fair.
I know you're not arguing with me. Get that camera off my face.